And it is a lot going on in the world of Caitlin Clark. New sponsorships to the left, new deals to the right. It's a lot going on. We are going to get to every... Oh, that's a boss move. Oh, that's a crazy boss move. That's a flex. Hey, listen, I understand. You got Nike deals. You got freaking PGA Golf Tour, Live Golf Tour. You got hockey sponsor. I know you got a lot going on, but to turn down 15 M's.
Picture this, a league dangling a contract so enormous it could rewrite the entire future of women's sports. Numbers that would make even NBA veterans pause. Enough money to fund franchises, to silence critics, to finally shut down every debate about whether the WNBA could ever compete financially with the big leagues. That was the offer placed in front of Caitlin Clark. And then she just said no. No hesitation, no public negotiation, no dramatic buildup of "let me think about it." Clark looked at a $50 million figure, the kind of deal that would have instantly become the most historic paycheck in women's basketball, and treated it like pocket change. While the commissioner expected fireworks and celebrations, Clark's response was closer to a shrug. The aftermath was immediate chaos. Fans felt blindsided. Imagine rooting for your league, desperate to see it finally break through, only to watch its brightest star push away the very lifeline everyone was waiting for. Supporters of Clark praised her courage. She knows her worth. She won't be bought. Critics accused her of arrogance, claiming she disrespected the league that gave her a stage. And then there was the WNBA itself, an institution that suddenly looked less like a professional league and more like a house of cards, one rejection away from collapse. But here's the thing. Caitlin's decision wasn't just about money. It cut deeper. It cracked open hidden rivalries. It exposed endorsements that outshined salaries. It revealed a league built on shaky financial ground. And the ripple effects? They didn't just stop at women's basketball. They echoed across the entire sports world. The WNBA had never dared to dream this big. Not once in its nearly 3 decades of existence had league executives even floated a contract in the tens of millions. The biggest names before Caitlin, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, legends in their own right, were all underpaid compared to their impact. Their contracts rarely crossed 6 figures, sometimes barely enough to rival overseas opportunities. But Caitlin Clark wasn't a normal rookie. She was the golden ticket. The league's leadership knew it. And in boardrooms behind closed doors, they started sketching a deal that would be impossible to ignore. Reports suggest the package went beyond salary, performance bonuses, revenue sharing, even potential equity slices in teams. When the final number surfaced, $50 million, it shattered every precedent in women's sports history. To put this into perspective, the average WNBA salary sits around $120,000 to $200,000 per year. That's less than what many NBA role players make in a week. Even the league's superstars, players who carry franchises, max out at roughly $250,000. One NBA rookie sneaker deal can outweigh that entire paycheck. So when this $50 million figure hit the table, it wasn't just generous. It was revolutionary. It signaled the league's desperation.
League is on welfare, okay? If they weren't on welfare, then the league would fold and there would be no women's basketball. And that is basically what has been revealed in this bombshell report about the WNBA being on track to lose roughly $50 million this year. $50 million, which is significantly more than the WNBA had been losing on a yearly basis in the past. Now, again, this is a little bit surprising because of the explosion in popularity of the WNBA due to Caitlin Clark, okay? But once we get into the details, it's not really all that surprising. But at the same time, reports like this kind of drive home the point that reasonable people have been trying to make about the WNBA.
They weren't simply paying Caitlin to play. They were trying to buy time, buy legitimacy, buy survival. Clark was less of a rookie and more of a rescue plan in human form. And then she walked away. The response was electric. Sports talk shows lit up with debate. Some praised her brilliance. She knows she's bigger than the league. Others spat fire. What more could she possibly want? The divide among fans became louder than any arena crowd. But there was one universal truth. This was no longer just a business deal. It was a turning point. From that moment on, every conversation about the WNBA's future carried Caitlin Clark's name at the center, not as just another player, but as the single most important bargaining chip women's basketball had ever seen. If the WNBA's offer was shocking, Ice Cube's was straight-up legendary. The Big Three League publicly dangled $15 million for just 10 games. That's more than most WNBA stars make in their entire careers, offered for a couple months of work. Fans couldn't believe it. Caitlin Clark, barely stepping onto a professional court, was already being courted by alternative leagues. Ice Cube wasn't subtle either. He blasted the news everywhere, making sure the world knew his league valued Clark higher than the WNBA ever had. And then came the twist. She turned that down, too. No one expected it. Not the Big Three, not fans, not even critics. By refusing, Clark sent a loud message. She wasn't going to jump at quick money. She was playing the long game, protecting her brand and health. To understand why she has this leverage, you need to rewind. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a great college player. She was a phenomenon. At Iowa, she routinely drained threes from distances that looked more like parking lots than basketball courts. Her highlight reels made defenders look like extras in her personal show. Her games weren't just events, they were sellouts. Fans camped for tickets. Scalpers charged thousands. TV ratings for women's basketball hit all-time highs, with Iowa versus LSU drawing more than 12 million viewers. That's Super Bowl territory. She wasn't just building a resume. She was building an economy. By the time she declared for the WNBA draft, Clark wasn't a rookie. She was a brand worth hundreds of millions. Here's where the story turns darker. A bombshell report revealed that the WNBA is on track to lose nearly $50 million this year alone. That's not just a dip, it's survival threatening. For years, the league has relied on NBA subsidies. Without that lifeline, it would collapse. And despite Clark's arrival boosting ticket sales and merchandise, the numbers still don't add up. That's why the WNBA's offer to her wasn't generosity, it was desperation. They needed her locked in. She wasn't just a player. She was the only thing standing between the league and financial freefall. But here's why Clark could afford to walk away. Her endorsements already dwarf league contracts.
The WNBA needs to do something about this. Kathy Engelberg, you need to get a hold of what's going on here. The officiating Kelsey Mitchell getting knocked around like a damn pinball, shoots 4 free throws. Aaliyah Boston plays an entire game as big, as strong, as physical as she is. Aaliyah Boston shoots 0 free throws. And she wasn't standing at the 3-point line. The officiating is flat out atrocious. Everybody else is getting calls. I think it's ridiculous. Just the fact that Aaliyah Boston shot 0 free throws tells you everything in itself.
Nike locked her into a multi-year deal worth tens of millions. State Farm made her a centerpiece of their campaigns. Gatorade, Buick, Wilson, every major brand rushed to sign her. Some estimates suggest her endorsement portfolio is already worth more than $100 million. Compare that to the WNBA's max salary of around $250,000, and the math is laughable. Clark makes more smiling in a commercial than she does playing an entire season. So when the WNBA thought they were offering life-changing money, Clark already had more. The contract wasn't tempting. It was redundant. Turning down $50 million sounds insane until you break it down. Clark's brand isn't tied to a single league. She's bigger than the WNBA. By saying no, she kept leverage. If she signed too early, she risked being overworked, injured, or exploited by a league barely holding itself together. Insiders suggest she wanted to avoid a Brittany Griner situation, where the league depends so heavily on one star that the pressure becomes unbearable. By rejecting the deal, Clark protected herself and forced the WNBA to prove its worth instead of just leaning on her name. But money wasn't the only storm. Clark's rise sparked fierce rivalries. Angel Reese, her college nemesis, openly celebrated beating her in the NCAA championship, and fans turned their rivalry into the women's version of Magic versus Bird. Then came Diana Taurasi, a legend of the game, who warned Clark that reality is coming in the WNBA. Many saw it as bitterness, proof that older players resented Clark's instant fame and paycheck. Reports of locker room jealousy surfaced, with whispers that veterans were frustrated seeing a rookie earn more in endorsements than they had in 2 decades of grinding. The tension only grew when Clark rejected the WNBA's mega deal. To some, it looked like she didn't even need the league. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended for days. Hashtag Clark rejects 50M. Hashtag WNBA chaos. Hashtag Caitlyn versus league. Memes flooded timelines, from Clark slapping away a money bag to Ice Cube crying in the club after she declined his offer. Debates raged. Was Clark selfish, or was she simply smart? Did she expose the WNBA's weakness, or was she helping it by keeping attention on the league? The conversation went beyond basketball. Pundits framed it as a battle for the future of women's sports. Athletes finally realizing their true value and refusing to settle. Now the question is, what's next? Rumors swirl about potential exhibition games against NBA players, overseas megadeals in places like China or Europe, or even Clark starting her own private league with investors. Meanwhile, the WNBA scrambles. They're redesigning marketing campaigns around Clark, offering bigger revenue shares, and even considering equity stakes to lure her back to the table. But the truth is, she doesn't need them as much as they need her. And that imbalance? That's the WNBA's nightmare. Caitlin Clark just turned women's basketball into a global headline.
Caitlin Clark, they would have no fans. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting the fact that just, again, a few years ago, before Caitlin Clark was in the league, this is what it looked like at a WNBA.
She rejected the biggest contract offer the WNBA has ever made, brushed off Ice Cube's $15 million Big 3 deal, and walked away knowing her brand is untouchable. For some, she's the savior of the sport. For others, she's a diva putting herself above the game. But love her or hate her, one thing is clear. Caitlin Clark has more power than any female athlete before her. So here's the real question. Did Caitlin Clark just save women's basketball by forcing the system to evolve? Or did she prove that without her, the league is doomed to collapse?